Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It's a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face this time once again for the one, the only Protonic reversal. That's right. Year 10. We're doing this. And by we, I mean me. Episode 383 here. Very excited. Very shortly, going to be talking to Ryan Patterson of the great band Fotocrime, also Coliseum, and getting it in before the the Coliseum shows actually happen. By a nose, pretty much, but we're getting it done. Very interesting cat, interesting fellow. Been meaning him having on for a long time. Looking forward to that. But before we do that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 383. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. If you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, and even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do. So yeah, Ryan, Fotocrime, Coliseum, busy dude, busy fella, lots of activity happening with this guy. This has been a long time coming. I don't know why it took me so long, but here we are. Very excited. Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've had it on my, this is how you know it's a one-man operation. I've had it on my list to ask you, I think for 5 years.
Okay. Glad to finally make it.
I get to it eventually. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're getting in before these Coliseum anniversary shows. Very cool stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about, first of all, folks that maybe want to go, they're probably out of luck at this point. I think it's sold out, right?
They are out of luck. Yeah.
But why was it this anniversary? Did it just feel right to kind of dive back in and celebrate this music? What was the impetus for it?
I think we were looking for an excuse to play together. The three of us, Carter, the drummer, Kahan, the bass player, and me, are always in touch. Like we text a lot about like records and movies and, the usual shit, right, stuff like that us are into, and then see each other when we're in town. And then I think in 2021, I wrote a hardcore record. I wrote like 9 hardcore songs, and sent it to them. And then over the next couple of years, we chipped away at finishing up. And last year we released it as C.L.S.M.
C.L.S.M, right. I remember it was like close, but it was the acronym.
Yes,
that's
it's
right.
kind of like an abbreviated version of Coliseum.
I'd like to buy a vowel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we released that record last fall as a surprise thing. And I think that also coincided with 20 years ago when Coliseum began. And it just seemed like a time to play. I think that I'd had enough distance from it to have some peace with it. And it was just the right time. It just everything kind of worked out. And so here we are.
Yeah, kind of rediscover the the cool things about it rather than just maybe the the slog of
Yeah.
it all, right?
Yeah, we worked very, very hard for 12 years nonstop,
Yeah.
never ever taking a break, and I was just exhausted by it in 2015, as we all were, all three of us. So yeah, some distance and like not letting people. I think like I'd heard so much stuff. You know, I don't know how you feel about your bands, but when you're in it, your perspective is very particular, and the outside perspective is so different.
Yes.
And so we wanted to do these couple of very low key shows. I mean, it's a very, very small place.
Tapes is not a big place at all.
No,
Yeah.
it's tiny. Yeah. So we're doing 2 nights there, and we just didn't want to turn it into like a big thing where we were concerned about whether it would sell out or
Right.
filling a weird room. We just wanted to have 2 shows that kind of felt like the shows that happened when we started, just tight, small punk shows.
Celebrating the music and the band with the people that want to be there and are engaged. That
Exactly.
makes sense to me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, then you immediately get to play Belgium, play Argentina.
Right. Yeah. And so
Sure, we'll be right there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think initially there was a lot of like, well, if you come here, we'll see you there. But that's not in the cards for us. I think we have decided that we will play shows. We are going to be active to whatever extent activity comes our way, but we won't tour. You know, we'll do one-offs and festivals and things like that if the timing works out for us. And
maybe not a 6-week tour though, right?
no touring at all whatsoever. That's our plan. So, yeah.
Well, and that makes sense because I mean, you have your band that you are very vital and active with now that you're also doing stuff with. You know, I mean, Fotocrime is like no slouch. Like you get out there like a lot doing Fotocrime stuff, and it seems like that's kind of where your heart is.
I think my heart is definitely Fotocrime, and I think that when Coliseum ended, I think my perspective was I didn't see anywhere for Coliseum to go at that moment stylistically.
Right.
I think we'd kind of reached the point, like we've reached our apex or whatever. And so the next songs I wrote were Fotocrime songs. They could have been Coliseum songs, but I just put that songwriting into a different avenue.
Right.
And yeah, so my heart is in Fotocrime. My heart's in Coliseum as well, but Fotocrime is what I'm doing. It's my active band. It's my passion. We're touring a lot, Nick and Will and I, and putting out a lot of new records. And yeah, that's current. And Coliseum is this mixture of current and past, but it's not like my mission in life right now.
Right. You're there to celebrate the lovely things about it and be able to hopefully enjoy them.
And like avoid all the bullshit, right?
Yeah,
like avoid all the
nonsense.
Yeah, like with an active band, there's so much like promotion and work and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But with Coliseum, it's like we're not doing any of that. We're gonna just like play a show, put out a record, you know. So with Fotocrime, I'm happy to do the work and put a little more of the like pounding the pavement into it, you know, because it is an active mission.
Well, and that struck me too, because when I first heard the Fotocrime stuff, I was like, oh, this is kind of hitting a little different. This is a little more, kind of dark, like sunglasses at night bat music to a certain degree.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in a good way. I was like pleasantly surprised because I think a lot of times, no matter what level of success you're at, if there are people that engage with the art that you make, for whatever reason, it's a modern construct. A lot of people are just like, oh yeah, do that thing that you do. It's like, well, I do a lot of things, bro. I don't just do that one thing. Like, oh, well, do the thing we like. It's like, well, I've done it. Why don't you listen to that record?
Right. And I understand that. I think different artists that I like, sometimes they might put out Jay Mascis might be a great example where I love Dinosaur Jr.
Sure.
I don't love every Dinosaur Jr. I loved
the
Fog records. Sometimes I like his solo records. Sometimes I don't. I still love him and respect him and want to see him play. And
you can have love for the artist without loving every single part of the discography, right?
Yes.
And respect for the artist, like especially when they do for big swings. It's like, didn't work at all for me, or like maybe that's just not for me. Maybe it's just like, no, it's great at what it is. It's just not what I'm looking for. But doesn't mean you like, oh, I hate that artist now.
Yeah, and you know, as an artist, for me, I don't see Fotocrime and Coliseum as being vastly different. I see I see the similarities more because it's all coming from me. I'm the
Right.
songwriter in both cases primarily. But I will say that revisiting all these Coliseum songs and rehearsing them, I knew I yelled, but I also found that I'm like singing, yelling in this like octave up from my natural voice, and it's been really interesting.
Oh yeah, just figuring out how to redo that. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I didn't realize how much it wasn't just like it was like way up there, and that's been really interesting to explore again and to see. One of my main goals was that I would be really comfortable in Fotocrime, where I think with Coliseum I was finding myself over the course of my 20s into my 40s, and sometimes fighting against my natural instincts and my natural voice, and even maybe like feeling like at the worst points for Coliseum to me were the times when I felt like we were trying to I don't know, like trying to maintain or like not compete. I don't know what the word would be off the top of my head, but we were like being affected by our contemporaries and by the culture at the moment. And with Fotocrime, my goal was just to make music I like. Like, I think that the perspective from a lot of people that maybe were Coliseum fans is that Fotocrime is like a goth band, or that it's some total artifice, and it's really not. It's just also punk, post-punk, post-hardcore music with a little more electronic elements, you know. So
well, yeah, I mean, it's not like heavy music. It doesn't have its trappings as well. I mean,
right, everything
on,
does.
right?
Every scene does. Every, you know,
there's a look. There's
yeah.
a sound. You know,
Yeah.
there's things you see someone load in certain gear. You're like, I know that we're up to with this band. You know,
Right,
like, and
right.
sometimes that's not true, right? I mean, I still remember like years and years back, I saw these dudes roll up in an ambulance at the show we played them. No idea what this band sounded like. And I was like, wow, they kind of look like Mudhoney or Archers of Loaf or something. Like, this is going to be interesting. What do they sound like? And they started up, flat out sounded like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. I'm like,
Nice.
whoa.
All right. Yeah.
And I was like super into it because I was like, didn't have that on the bingo card.
Right.
But it's awesome that they didn't look like dudes that played that kind of music. I think that can be kind of interesting of itself to sort of play with expectations.
Yeah, for sure.
It isn't like you're like, I'm going to go, you know, into the goth cave. You know?
Right. Yeah, and I think as long as music is sincere and it's coming from a sincere place, and that's my goal, you know, is just to be a great songwriter and express myself and express sincere sentiments. And, you know, I've never been one to like dress up or put on a costume, but I feel like the presentation of music is important, and it was important with Coliseum, and it's important with Fotocrime, and with any band I do. I like a band to have a full aesthetic. That's something I really respond to.
There's a vibe with Fotocrime,
yeah,
for sure.
hopefully.
That is, you know, again, without necessarily being slavish to previous standards and other bands. Like there's something you're establishing mood.
Yeah,
you're establishing. You know, it's a show.
For sure.
It is interesting. So you guys went so hard, Coliseum, for so long, and were you finding yourself like trapped almost near the end of it? Or was it just because like the grueling pace of keeping up with being like a band that was that active?
I think we felt completely free to do whatever we wanted to do, which was cool. But I think that we saw a group of contemporaries that we had have much more success than us. And I know it's always a battle. It's like I was talking to a friend the other day who was stressed about some huge touring they had coming up, the kind of touring that I would be very jealous of. But then while talking to him, I thought, yeah, I got to remember that it's hard for anybody. Like nobody, anytime you're flying around the world and away from home and out of your comfort zone, it's still work, even though it's great and enjoyable. But I think for Coliseum, we had just pushed so hard, and we were just a tiny band. I mean, we were just playing.
Right. Yeah.
Our last record, we were out and we were playing mostly shitty shows. People weren't coming to see us. And it was just time to let that go because it was really bothering me. It was making me depressed. And I couldn't go play a show without thinking of every show we played in that town before. You know, when you're playing like Brooklyn and you've played Brooklyn probably 27 times,
Yeah.
and you've sold 1,000 shirts in Brooklyn alone, and there's fucking 30 people at the show. Yeah, except Jinx. Yeah, it was just like, well, what's the fucking point? You know. And I think part of that was that we pushed too hard. I think there was an expectation that Coliseum will be back next year, and the problem is, as a band, is you constantly want to play. I don't want to go 5 years without playing New York City. I want to go to New York City every fucking year.
Yeah, it's great.
Play a show. Yeah,
it's an awesome time. You know,
it's like I want to play. I want to be in Berlin every year if I can. But I understand that you can't do that, and people, especially as a small artist, people start to think like, "Oh, I saw them last year."
Yeah, I can see them anytime. They'll be back soon enough. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's not convenient for me. I'm waxing a weasel that night. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we'd fallen prey to that. We just done too much, and I don't think the music we were making, Coliseum was making, fit into a specific audience. You know, because I think people like to put things into boxes. They like to say, this is, we're going to a noise rock fest. We're going to a doom fest. We're going to this thing.
Yeah.
And I think Coliseum was a lot of all of that stuff. You know, there was post-punk, there was, you know, noise rock, there was metal, you know, there was all sorts of shit. So yeah, and that's fine. And then, so Coliseum Fotocrime is almost in the same way, where we don't strictly adhere to anything. And so, but I don't find my sense of worth by how many people come to the show anymore.
Right.
You know, I do it because I love it. Whereas with Coliseum, I was totally finding my sense of purpose in life from that, and just trying so hard to find success, and we weren't getting it. Yeah. So then you step away from it and you see the success. We played 1,000 shows. We went all over the world. Yeah. We did so much shit. It was amazing.
It just isn't necessarily manifesting the way that you want or expect at that moment in time, and you can't see because you're in it. It's water for you, right? Like you're in the river of it, and and that can be. I mean, that's a growth. That's
well, for sure, yeah.
you know, I mean, you have to, and again, so first of all, it's not just the one genre thing. That seems to be more and more these days. People want that, and I'm like, well, why would you want shameless genre purveyors?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of my favorite bands are like, oh man, well, it's kind of nuts. They're kind of this thing, then they kind of do this other stuff, and they kind of, it's just, you got to hear it. Just listen to it. It's great.
Right.
And any band that can usually be summed up as, oh yeah, that's punk, or that's noise rock, or that's metal, or whatever. Like, I mean, there are bands that are exceptions that prove the rule, but for the most part, it's like, I don't think that that's as interesting. And it's weird that I used to characterize it as the record bin. Okay, which bin header does this go into? Is this punk or metal? Is this noise rock, or is this, you know, like whatever? And now, you know, with the streaming services and stuff, I mean, they just flat out do it, and to the point that you'll get locked in where all your music will only ever be discovered by people in that genre.
Right.
Which is depressing to me, and that's not something that I. Which again, the way to get past that is that people have to be powerful advocates for things that they love, right? That they have to, oh my God, you got to hear the new blah, blah, blah. You know, it's amazing. And then that's how you break that bubble of confirmation bias. But it's crazy that what I always felt was like the downside of the record store mentality is now applied to literally everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, the downsides of all aspects of music business are now all that there is, you know. So, I mean, I'm thankful.
If you choose to operate in that way, unless you're doing something where you control as many aspects of it as possible, make the journey itself the destination, do only the things that you want to do, and realize that not only is the system stacked against you, the system is set up in a way that you'd be winning the lottery if you were able to get to a larger audience at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I prefer to just not play the game. I mean, I'm not in this for a career. I'm in it for a life, for community, and for creativity and expression. And I'm thankful that, like, Coliseum didn't really have to deal with the streaming world. You know, we weren't, I don't know when Spotify took over, but I'm glad that we weren't really part of that. And, you know, we didn't really have to fuck with social media too much. And so I'm very happy to revisit that band now that I started when I was 25 or 26.
Yeah.
20 years later, and be at peace with it and have nothing to prove and just enjoy the fucking songs. And if people want to have us fly out places to play there and it can work out, we'll do it. If not, we don't, we'll just do whatever the fuck we want to do. And essentially that's what Fotocrime is doing too. It's like we're not, there's not careerism here. I have a very, very wonderful life. And anytime I get to play music is a gift. I'm not trying to cash a check,
Yeah, you're doing it for the quality, not the quantity necessarily.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I talk with Tony all the time. We talk about how back in the day, it's people had to buy the CD, right? Because otherwise they may never hear your band again. And so, and that is such a crazy artifact of its time. And I mean, the converse of that now is, I think, especially since COVID, people seem to be much more amenable to not only buying merchandise, but buying merchandise for like a price that's, not punk rock austerity complex, like
right.
Which is good. But like it's crazy to think about that. Yeah, you would see an awesome band, and if I don't buy this right now, I will literally never hear of this band again.
For sure. Yeah.
And that immediacy is not there because it's we have. Not only can you listen to that band, you can listen to all that band's side projects and previous bands. And also, by the way, there's Led Zeppelin and New Order and everything else in the world. And it's just a different set of challenges and a different landscape. But again, I think people, they get caught up into it and basically are turning themselves into more or less online influencers. I don't think that's going to age well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I on one hand, the like talking to the camera on my phone,
Sorry.
I don't like it. On the other hand, I'm like,
it works.
It's a communication tool. Every once in a while I do it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know.
There's also an artifact of, I think, because I think we were like more or less around the same age. That like people around our age, there were some things just so like detestable about. Why would you? Why would you do that?
Right.
Which of course no kids have a problem with whatsoever. Like, this is just what you do.
Yeah.
And there is a certain point that you're like, well, I guess I get to get over myself, and like this is how I can get it out there. Okay,
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, there's so much.
You can have fun with it, whatever.
Yeah. There's so much about all of it that I hate, and honestly, none of it that I like. So why even worry about it? Like in terms of the marketing of music and all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of wade through it without worrying too much about it. The less I worry about it, the better, and the more I'm just focused on making art and having fun and trying to grow as a songwriter and musician, the better. So
absolutely. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Accelerated because it's still, that came out in the fall, but it's still like a relatively new record. Before we do that, though, it occurs to me, when you're doing these Coliseum shows, pretty wide swath of material, a long period of time that you guys were around, right?
Yeah.
Was it easy to pick whatever you're going to play? Did you kind of have to labor over it a little bit? Because, you're not going to do like a 3-hour set, I'm assuming. But
right. Yeah, it was it was hard. It was like, also because you're not a band who has like clear singles.
Right. You don't have a Sweet Home Alabama you have to play or something. Right.
And there's like, you
have to play The Flame or people can get mad.
Yeah. And I do kind of wonder, like, I don't know. It's like if you mentioned Archers of Loaf, like when Archers of Loaf reunited and the songs that they picked, how do they know? They know the songs they released. They maybe had college radio back then or something, but like they're not going to look at they might look at the video views. Anyway, there was a little bit of that, like, the video views. And like for the first time ever, I looked at Coliseum's streaming stats, and there were a couple songs that I was like, I don't know why this song of all of them is like really,
it's usually TikTok, by the way, is what I found
so.
out.
Okay.
Or like just like some random thing that has nothing to do with the music, where it's like, okay, that's sure. However they got there, they got there.
One of our songs is in a video game, and that's the song we've made the most money on, and has the most listens, and like, it's a great song, but it wasn't like a single or anything like that. It just
right. It wasn't like the A-list of your songs.
Right. Yeah. So, but that's a song we probably would have played anyway. So yeah, it was interesting, man. It was like, I think for the old records, it was really easy. It was just like these are the 2 or 3 that we kind of always played that feel like those kind of made it through the eras. And then for the later records, it was interesting, especially our last album, because we did one long US tour and then broke up. So you didn't
have the chance really to play those a lot.
Those songs, we didn't do that thing where after touring a record for a while, you think, oh, this song, I'm tired of it, or it's not translating, and this song kind of rises.
Yeah.
And you
don't even need to get to know the crowd reaction. Sure. And not to interrupt, but I just had Greg Norton from Husker Du on again, and he was talking about, and I kind of forgot about this for some reason, that like when they would go out, they would just play songs from the next record.
Yeah.
And then like, so by the time they, recorded it, like it was all pretty like well down, but people would be like, what are these songs? I don't know what these songs are. I mean, it's great, but but that just goes to show you that's like the 80s, right? People didn't have like phones. Right. They weren't like filming things in 4K.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked the idea. It's like I want to see songs I know, but I do like the idea of a band just being who the band wants to be.
Right, sure.
And that works out sometimes and it doesn't. It's like, I think there are certain bands that just kick ass and you could just watch them do
whatever they do, it's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
That's the way to be.
And I think Coliseum was one of those bands when we existed.
Yeah. I saw you guys a couple times, and I was always like, "Cool, sounds like Coliseum songs." Great.
Like we would play whatever we wanted to play, and we might play a handful of old songs, and maybe might not.
Yeah.
But with this, we wanted to kind of cover the whole width of the band. So it was interesting, man. I've never done anything like this. I've never done like a greatest hits show and varied sets for 2 nights and all that kind of stuff. And it's worked out well. And it was cool. Like once we went through that and learned songs, and then there were a couple songs where I was just like, I like listening to the song, but trying to play it again, it just does not connect with me. And so just axe it. And it worked out pretty well. It was cool. And it's cool to play these songs where there's certain songs that you're just like, fuck, this
rocks.
This is us. Like this is this is like this is Coliseum to me. Like there's a song called Lost in Groningen on House with a Curse, and a song called Late Night Trains on Sister Faith. And like those songs, when we play them, I'm like, this is us. Like it's melodic, it's heavy, it touches on the things that we love, but it's not easy to pinpoint. And it's comfortable to play. So that was really cool. It's neat to do that. And we're actually like this weekend recording a new song. I'm gonna attempt. I've always had this weird idea of documenting kind of like the anti-long PR process. Like I think on like Friday and I guess here, but like I'm gonna say like, hey, we're recording a new song tomorrow. So it's like Saturday we're recording the song, Sunday we'll do overdubs, Monday I'll mix, Tuesday we'll master, Wednesday it's out on Bandcamp. And so we're just going to do that, like just kind of like, hey, today's the process, tomorrow you get it. And that's going to be interesting to do. And that song kind of came from us playing and me feeling like these are the moments that are really resonating with me.
Sure, yeah.
And kind of funneling that into a new song. So we're going to experiment with that over the next week.
That's exciting.
It'll be fun.
And you're taking advantage of these like modern constructs and availability. I mean, the idea that you could do that in like, 2004 or something would be like insane.
Well, we'd be burning a CDR the night before the show or something. Yeah. Bandcamp's kind of the CDR of our time. Yeah.
The tour CDR.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember Replicator were like, shoot, we need artwork. I don't know, put a wizard on it. Great.
Right. Yeah. Like let's spray paint it in the van, outside the van.
Exactly. So, oh God, van assembly. I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah. So we're gonna try that, and that'll be fun. And that's kind of what I like, that immediacy in general. And I would do that with Fotocrime more, but there's record labels and there's these other things involved. Not that they stymie us in any way, but there's a little more of the standard path.
There's more at stake. There's more.
We're trying to do things. There's a little more money involved and shit like that. Where like Coliseum, it's just like, let's just fucking do this. Let's just do whatever. And that's fun to me.
Which is funny because people always say that that's that's what they want out of bands. I'm like, well, you may want that, but that you don't realize the level of effort that is for bands, and the fact that it's a gamble. It's and again, for something like Coliseum, it's easy because there's like almost no stakes to it. Like whatever it is what it's going to be. Great.
Yeah.
But for an active band to do something like that, it's like, well, if that doesn't land, and there's a 50-50 chance it won't, then like congratulations, you just did some weird thing that people are not going to remember next week.
Right. And I don't
remember when they did that weird thing? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Right. Exactly. Like you didn't see it on social media that day. It's done.
Yeah.
And I mean, all that is very like, I'm trying my best, like I said, to circumvent these things that I don't like this Coliseum record we did last year, the C.L.S.M record.
Yeah.
We announced it on one day with no lead up. It was just like, this record exists. You can order it now. It was in our hands. When
I remember. I was just like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. No one had any idea. And we sold most of them that first day.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like we went to sleep. We all texted each other, man, that was cool. And that was that.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I loved that. On the other hand, I do love making videos and I love making single art. And there's a lot of that other part of it, of the kind of build up that I enjoy.
That long build up, the sort of the thing where the denouement of the movie is like the record actually coming out because there's all this build up to it, right?
Right, exactly. So I mean, I think there's mixture of that can work, So I'm just trying to experiment with all that stuff because again, it's like there's no, I don't think the rule book is set in stone anymore.
Well, I agree, right? And there's certainly things that stuff that like works at the time that won't work later. I mean, remember when Radiohead just like put all the MP3s on their website, and I was like, all right, that's a bold move.
Yeah.
But they're also the biggest band in the world; they can do whatever the hell they want.
Right.
Like it's like it's far different when the resources available to do cool stuff is self-contained or nearly so.
For sure. I mean, at the same time, it's like, I think about that. Like I think about 9 Inch Nails and like the long periods of time between records. And then it's like,
generations between records.
Right.
So civilizations rose and fell between the last record and now.
And things come out and it's like, here's 5 songs. I'm like, okay. And then here's like fucking 25 instrumental songs. And I understand this dude's like busy. He's, winning Oscars, writing scores and stuff. But to me, it's like, I want to make music and I want music from artists I love. Like,
right.
I just, there's, and maybe this is why, but like, there's nothing I want more in the world than more Portishead music, and I'm excited about new Beth Gibbons music, but like,
how great is that third record, by the way? Like,
it's amazing.
And the fact that most people that love the first two don't know it, I'm like, you got to listen to it. It's amazing.
Very, very weird. And like, I love the singles after that. And I'm obsessed with that. And I want more of that. And so it bothers me that bands don't do more, and it bothers me that bands are expected to wait a long time or do all these things. Like I want to live in like the Beatles or Ramones era when people are putting out albums every 6 months. Like,
Creedence Clearwater Revival, man. They knocked out like a banger record every year for like 4 years. And people like, no, that was like, there was this Fogerty just like banging them out. And then those dudes getting cranky about not getting songwriting on it. And then they wrote some songs and it was the worst stuff you've ever heard.
That happens. Yeah.
It's like, well, tried that.
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying where so we're in this process of the world where musicians are being cajoled into being content creators. Meaning that like, you should always be releasing new music. But by the same token, it's not treated with any expectation or importance. It's treated as disposable, which is anything but the case. But the idea of like, if it is a band that you love, like, oh, hell yeah, new whatever EP, great. I can't wait to check that out. And it's not something that should be looked at as like, they're always releasing stuff. It's exhausting.
Right.
Like, you don't have to listen to it. I mean, what's...
Yeah.
Like, no one's forcing... Like, you're not being Clockwork Orange, but with ears,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I just think...
you?
I think more valid art, more good art in the world is great, especially when art is not a product. I mean, I think that's... There's a lot of stuff out there that's just a product, and I think things that are just sincere and done with love and for no other reason than love is just should be cherished and valued.
Because you're talking about art versus content, right? And those are
Right,
very different
right.
things.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
Art can be content, but all art is not content, and all content is certainly not art.
Absolutely. So
Embroidered on a doily hanging on the wall. But
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's cool that there's, because it does seem like kind of relaxed is maybe not the right word, but like, you know, approaching the Coliseum stuff, it seems like it's just like, no, we're gonna do some cool stuff, and we're not gonna stress that hard about it. There's not gonna be a PR company like doing a press release about it or whatever. It's just gonna be like, if you know, you know.
right. I mean, that's how it is, and it's really it's very I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It's unlike me, but very peaceful feeling to think like after these 2 shows next weekend, we might play more shows, but we might never play again, and we'll just
Maybe
see
we
what,
will, maybe we won't. Yeah.
And we're not going to chase it. And
Instead of being
that's the
that, well,
point.
maybe if everyone who believes in fairies claps really hard,
Right,
you know, like
right.
you don't have to pull that malarkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful that like Fotocrime, particularly in Europe, we seem to do fine, and that's where I would rather tour anyway, because it's beautiful and different, and we're treated so well. So as long as we can kind of keep touring in Europe, that's great to me. That's so fun, and that's great. We have a great record label, and we all get along really well, and I'm super excited about all the music we make. So I feel very fortunate to have all this in my life and have all these outlets and have anybody pay attention at all.
Absolutely. So I was just not that long ago talking to Jay Robbins, and how did you enter in this, I almost said relationship. I guess it's a relationship. Sure. Creative alliance, what have you with Jay. When did that start up?
Yeah, I was just a fan forever. And for me, it started when in the mid 90s, because my first show was a Jawbox show in Louisville.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan. I was a huge Discord head. And so I saw Jawbox post Novelty, you know, on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Zach was in the band, but it was like pre major label, and loved that. And then loved all the records he produced. And so when a band I used to do called Black Cross, our first album on Equal Vision, we had Jay come to Louisville and record it, and he slept on our floor, and it was pretty much everybody else had jobs except for me. And so it was like, I was with him every day, you know. It was like we were getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the studio. You know, we were together basically, you know, all the time except for sleeping for that like 10 days. And I don't think we necessarily became close then. I was really nervous. I mean, he was like
That's guy from
big deal to
Jawbox,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You know, I was a huge fan of all his music. But I think over the years, it went from like just kind of a fan relationship to, you know, a friendship. In some ways, I see him as kind of a mentor figure.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we talked a lot over the Coliseum years. And when we were doing the second Coliseum record, I really wanted to do it with him. But he was one of the names bandied about, and that record was on Relapse, and it was a very extreme. It was by far the most like extreme record I've done, Coliseum No Salvation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We ended up recording it with Kurt, which was a great decision, and Kurt Ballou is awesome.
Another great talent, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
good friend, and we had a super fun time.
Yeah.
But then when I kind of got a little disillusioned with Coliseum's step into metal, I was just like, I need to go back to what I feel most, which is like going back to Jay Robbins and like a little more Discord, a little more post-hardcore. So we worked with him on all the remaining Coliseum stuff, the last 3 Coliseum albums. He mixed the House with a Curse. He's supposed to record it, but like an emergency came up, and Kevin Ratterman from Elliott recorded the record, and Jay mixed it. And then we recorded the next 2 records with him, with Jay, and did an EP with him. And then with Fotocrime, we just continued that because I felt so comfortable with him. And he just, I don't know. It's like, he's a great booster. He is an incredible engineer, and he's an incredible friend. And by the time it was time for Fotocrime, we developed such a shorthand. Our references are all the same, and we're excited to talk about different records and music
Yeah,
between
sure.
takes, and I was really nervous with Fotocrime because it was different for me, and it was my goal with the first record was to see if I could write and record an entire record myself. I did the record
Right,
with no
yeah.
band; it was just
Yeah.
all me. So
Which is both thrilling and scary at the same time.
yeah, exactly, and that was the big thing with that record, and so went there and did it with Jay, and it was great and beautiful, and I stayed with him, and so that just continued. And then the next record we did a few songs with live drums with Albini, and I recorded a couple songs at London on tour, and then finished it all up with Jay, did a few sessions with Jay. And then when I started recording myself, the third Fotocrime record, Heart of Crime, it was like the pandemic record. I did it at home, and Jay was a big part of that because I hired him to do a mixed consultation. So at the end, after I'd done everything,
Right.
he was like a stamp of approval to say, because I just was intimidated by it. I never really recorded myself in that to that capacity. I'd done EPs or a single or a demo, but he kind of again gave me that stamp of approval. He said, "This all sounds great," or "What about this?" Or the kick drum's a little boomy, and so that's just kind of continued. But it's kind of weird because now I have my own little studio and I'm recording myself and some other projects, and my brain is constantly working to see how I can work with Jay again. But once you have your own space and there's no bill and you can take your time on vocals and all, it's hard
to argue with.
yeah. So on Accelerated, the newest Fotocrime record, the first song is from a session that we all did at Inner Ear with Jay.
Oh, sure.
Before Inner Ear
RIP,
closed.
yeah.
Yeah. So when I found out Inner Ear was going to close, we booked a session, Jay engineering, we did it all live to tape. And we kind of tried to see how a band like Fotocrime would have recorded.
Oh, sure.
Back then.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
had
yeah. Like this is like we've traveled in time and we're making a record.
exactly. So it was really cool. We had the drum machines synced up to MIDI with the Moogs and the synths and all that kind of shit, and it was really exciting. And so the first song on Accelerated was recorded and mixed by Jay live to tape at Inner Ear, and then the rest I recorded and mixed. So yeah, I mean, and we're still we're in touch. Obviously, his band is coming to play the Coliseum shows next week.
J. Robbins' band is so good too. I mean,
they're amazing. The new record's so awesome.
I think I mentioned, I don't know if it was on here or not. It doesn't matter. But I was like, yeah, even if I didn't know Jawbox, didn't know Burning Airlines, didn't know like any of his other bands, if I just like heard that band blind, like this band rocks. This is fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah, and it's new and different, and it doesn't. That familiarity with his voice and songwriting is there, but it doesn't feel like a rehash of anything. It feels like him moving forward, and it's really vital. So I love it. Yeah. So I am constantly kind of trying to figure out how, even if it's him coming into my little space and he kind of co-engineering with me or something, I'm always kind of thinking of how we can continue to work together.
Sure. I mean, like I want to say, I can't remember at this point, but I want to say I actually heard about Fotocrime from Jay. Like he told me about it, and I was like, oh, like Ryan from Coliseum. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. I was like, the first thing I thought of is, and this is good. I was like, oh, that's a good band name.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good. And he builds up a community. He builds a community around himself, like people that he records a few times and gets to know, and he starts to really become invested in them as people and as musicians. And I think he is very supportive of that without being.
He's a fan of music, right?
Yeah.
And you think that'd be a given, but some people.
No, and he's a fan of community and of the sincerity of it all. It's like he invited Fotocrime to come play the first Jawbox show back. They did like a secret unannounced show in Baltimore before the announced shows, and I opened that, and that was amazing. And
yeah, not bad, right?
Yeah, pretty fucking cool. So yeah, it's great. It's I feel very fortunate to have had this very long-term, relationship with him, like since like the early 2000s. It's just really great. I'm very lucky.
And there's something nice about having someone like that, like on your side, like in your camp, that, especially for something you spend a lot of time with it alone. Sometimes, like you can kind of really get in your head about stuff and you'd be like, well, wait a second. this guy who I think is like a total badass, like thinks this is pretty cool. So I must be onto something.
Right, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
can't be all bad.
yeah. And he's encouraging. Like he's the kind of, hopefully I'm that resource to somebody else, but like,
Sure.
I feel like anytime I can text him and say, hey, what about this microphone, or what about this, or
Yeah.
oh, here's this thing. I mean, he's the person that texted me and told me Jordy from Killing Joke died.
Ugh.
It's like
Yeah.
there's just a shared love, and to have been like close with Callum and him have been part of my life and part of those records we made, and I'm close with Janet, his wife. She's appeared on all the Fotocrime records, and so it's cool. It's a very important relationship to me.
Yeah, so with the Fotocrime stuff, and I'm specifically thinking of Accelerated because you have like a Paul from Blackheart Procession on there, right? Evan, I think does some kind of cool like reverse guitar stuff, things like that. Like it's a very eclectic group of extra musicians and collaborators. How do you figure out where people fit in? Is it something where you're like writing stuff to someone's sensibilities, or is it just something, hey, so and so would be good on this?
Well, those guys, Evan and Paul, they're all in Heart of Crime, which is our third album.
Yeah,
that came out in 2020.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's Heart of Crime. My bad. Sorry.
So and that one was
it's
like
2021 still, right?
Yeah, well, close. But like that one was like I said, that was like kind of my pandemic record, even though at the time I didn't want to see it that way.
Right.
It was very much the record I made at home alone. I set up a studio in the front of my house and was just reaching out to a lot of people to have them and be involved, just to try to have some more connection, right? And like Paul, I know Paul and I'm a huge fan of his voice.
Oh, so great.
So having him sing and do Saw on a song play Saw was great, and Evan, and there's a ton of people on that record. And then for Accelerated, Nick and Will, my bandmates in Fotocrime, Nick has been in the band essentially since the beginning. He was our live guitar player right off the bat.
Doing all the guitars. I think,
yeah. And Nick is in Young Widows as well. And but it was like, sometimes he'd play on some recordings, sometimes he didn't. Things just kind of ebbed and flowed.
Mm-hmm.
I did the band completely solo for part of 2019 and 2020. But post-pandemic, I was like, I want to be in a band. I don't want to be a solo artist.
Right.
I don't want to go travel alone. Nick and Will, the bass player, like they are two of my very closest friends. We all have really long, deep histories with all these different bands we've been in and different tours we've done together.
Sure.
And so I wanted them to be in the band. So on Accelerated, there are maybe no guests other than, I think it's all just the three of us. And that was my goal with that record, to have it be a band.
Be the band. Instead of being like, this is Ryan dicking around with synths and instruments, and this is the band.
Yes. So it's like we all played, Nick sang a lot, they contributed more to songwriting, and so that was the goal for that, and that's continued on. I mean, they've been doing all the touring and hopefully will be part of the band forever going forward, because they're just really great musicians and people. And I feel very fortunate that these two folks that I've been friends with and been touring with for so long are in this band, because I know that sometimes you just have a hard time finding people, and you have to just get someone you maybe don't know or don't connect with as much to fill the role on a tour. And sometimes that works out great. Like Carter and Kahan from Coliseum, I did not know them before they joined the band. Really, I knew Kahan because he was Carter's friend, but Carter was like out of nowhere a person that I would recommended to me. And I'm very, very thankful we became super close, but I've also had the opposite experience.
You never quite know, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's certainly, you can tell when there's a personality fit, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's probably the easiest thing in the world. But then also it's like someone could be like the best person in the world and maybe even an amazing musician, but it doesn't mean that they're right for whatever
Absolutely.
they're doing.
Yeah. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with either party. You just don't, it's just like any relationship. You don't quite connect in that way where you want to be on the road and
it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think the vibe on that is like Accelerated, it's got a good like it does have a good full band feel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like it, and it feels very, not that the other stuff sounded like tentative, but it feels very authoritative in that way as like a band record.
Yeah, I think we wanted it to be less experimental and more
Yeah.
like these are songs that are going to really exist in the live spectrum and be a little more hard hitting. Where I think with Fotocrime prior, it was kind of a mixture of a few songs that felt kind of rocking and a little more
Yeah.
aggressive, but then a lot of like,
Here's this trippy kind of
experimenting and
thing
trying
going
to
on, yeah.
explore minimal synth and pop and stuff like that. And I think even the explorations on Accelerated are in a more full band way. I mean, we have like our most mellow songs and some big swings, but it's still within more of a solid band context.
When you're putting it together, because you have the ability to do so, are you recording everything like in one big hunk, or are you kind of splitting it up here and there and doing stuff when you can?
It kind of depends. I mean, I think generally I will start to form a demo and then like pre-accelerated, it's just kind of doing it and chipping away. But it was kind of like you're building it as you go. I wouldn't do a lot of like,
Right.
I wouldn't, prime the canvas before doing the details. I would just kind of do it all in a ramp until it was finished. And with Accelerated, because there was a band, there was a bit more of like focusing mostly on one song at a time, but bringing them in when it was time for them to do their thing. And they would contribute. They would help me rearrange the song, or it was kind of neat. Like they would come in and say, "What about this here? What about this?" Or I would say, "I know what you do that I really love as a musician. Bring that here. Write a bass line.
Right.
Write a guitar lead. Write a melody." And so that was cool. But yeah, we didn't do the traditional like the band is in the studio recording the songs.
Right. We're recording from Monday to Sunday, and we have to get these many songs done, get basics by Thursday. And
right. And we've done all that. Like the songs, we did a session for the second Fotocrime album with me and Nick and Eric from Kerosene 454 and Hayden from Metz with live drums with Albini. And that was very much like the songs are ready. They're, rehearsed. We go in, we record them basically live on the floor. And so we've done it all, but I do think the next Fotocrime record, when the time comes, it's right now to me, it feels like it's going to be a more aggressive record. And I think it will be a little more of us playing all at once, fewer overdubs. I think that's because we've been touring a lot and touring a lot with this group. And once you start touring more, I start to think like, I don't want these overdubs in the backing track, or like this synth thing felt good, playing it in the studio, but when I'm playing it live, it doesn't feel as good. And so I think the next record is going to be a little more aggressive. There also some of the people that have like passed on, like I was saying, like Jordy from Killing Joke and Rick Froberg, those kind of people that are hugely influential to me. And I've always put their music and their influence in my music. I thought like, why? I don't know. You don't want to sound like Killing Joke. We won't ever sound like Killing Joke. But I'm like, why kind of filter that down here in the mix of my interests?
Yeah,
I just put it up here because like they're gone, and
they literally can't do it anymore.
Right.
No, that's a good
like,
point. Yeah.
And like, I want to channel that because I love that. And I want to keep that, my perspective of that, my interpretation of that going along with
that's interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting, and especially, harkening back to the conversation earlier with like, everybody being put in the slots and the the leader cards in the bins and the records or terminology. But there is something where it's for artists that are not around anymore. It's not like there isn't more stuff to explore with that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. Why should that just end with that artist? That's if you can, not that it's like, like whatever. What was the Woody Guthrie thing with getting the old songs and
Oh, like the Wilco,
the
Mermaid,
Wilco and
Mermaid Avenue or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, I actually thought that was cool. I'm not a big Wilco guy, but I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Like, but I'm not saying like that level of it, but just sort of like, hey, man, no one else is freaking. It's just laying around here. No one else is using it.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's like
still sounds good. That's Jazz Chorus is a pretty cool sounding amp.
Yeah, and like I don't think that you need to make a tribute. You'd be a tribute band, and I don't think it's very rare that I love the fucking Beatles song with John Lennon's demo, whatever. It's like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah,
and
it's academically interesting. Wow, it's cool they were able to do that. Moving on.
Right. It's very rare I enjoy the song that like somebody found the lyrics in a bedroom drawer and they're like, oh shit, let's make a song with this by this dead artist. To me, it's more exciting to say, oh fuck, I love the Gun Club. Where's this? This is an element of that I fuel into what I do or whatever. So, and that's what we all do. But I don't know. Just I think I just feel like Fotocrime's next record might just be a little more aggressive. I think I've been not fighting, but I've been drifting away from that tendency because I felt like I had to establish something else within myself and within my public persona as a musician. But I think it's all part of the same picture. I mean, it's like I listen to mostly hardcore and post-punk, and so it's I think I hear the hardcore and the like anarcho-punk and all that shit in Fotocrime, but there's no reason to not lay it on a little thicker or whatever. And maybe by the time we start recording or I start writing more, it'll be totally different. I don't know.
You've already made these other records too, so it's not like there's like some big need to remake the same record. Like do something different, right? Why not? And again, you're now at a point where you've reconciled whatever feelings you had at the end of Coliseum proper originally, that like you've been able to kind of get some distance from that music and whatnot. But at the time, I'm sure the last thing you want to do is make an aggressive guitar music with huge amps, Why would you?
Right. So, and like there are things, I'm sure it's the same for you or like everybody, there's little goals. Like I said, with the first Fotocrime record, it was make a record on your own, expand your songwriting craft in this way. The third album, make a record at home. The last record, there were a lot of things I want to do, like the full band thing, but there were also some more like Roxy Music and Sade kind of things that I wanted to explore.
Sure.
I wanted to play sax a little more, and I did that. And and that's probably why I'm more of a niche artist than most people, because once I've done the thing, I just don't want to keep doing it over and over.
I did it.
I just
go listen to it if you want to.
I want to do elements of that. It all sounds very connected to me, but I just don't. I don't need to make Coliseum's goddamage every fucking other year for the rest of my life. Yeah, that's just I can hear that through line. And if you can't hear it and you only like one thing and you don't like, if you like point A and you don't like point Z, that's fucking fine, So
it doesn't matter. And ideally, you'd be in a situation, the upper echelon is like a Nick Cave or something, right? Where look, one of my favorite artists of all time. There are whole records. I'm like, I don't like a single song on that record.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean I don't. But Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds especially, love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me at all. That it doesn't bother me. People get mad at me. Make this reference so much. Iggy Pop made Butttown. That doesn't bother me.
Right.
It's Iggy Pop. Dude,
exactly.
Like freaking, you're gonna be mad at like the dude who did like a night clubbing and Lust for Life and The Passenger. You're gonna be mad at the guy from the Stooges, from like freaking Funhouse. Like, he can make as many butt towns as he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'll also do things like that post-pop depression record where I'm like, that record is great. That record is better than anybody than has any right to be.
Yeah,
and I loved it.
And that kind of thing is beautiful. Like Nick Cave's a perfect example. I love Push the Sky Away. I love Skeleton Tree. Everything he's done since then did not connect with me. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, this might be the point when I'm done. But like my partner, Jamie, she hates Push the Sky Away. She loves The Birthday Party and maybe the earliest Bad Seeds. And I love that stuff too. But I think I also kind of just appreciate it when something comes out and I'm like, this isn't for me. Because
it's a big swing, right?
Yeah,
it's like, look, it's not the safe path. This is a wild change.
Right.
You know,
and that's exciting. Like we mentioned Portishead earlier. Like, I listened to the new Beth Gibbons single today, the second one from her new record, and I really liked it. I
gotta listen to that.
It's called Reaching Out. It's awesome. The first one I didn't connect with as much, but she made a little statement where she's like, I'm not using the familiar sounds. You're not going to hear the like hiss and crack of a snare drum. You're going to hear woodier sounds. And of course she wants to do something different. And of course I want,
you want to hear all the cool, the
to a certain extent,
stuff, right? Yeah.
You know, it's like, but it's still there. I still hear her perspective in it and maybe more of a pure perspective from her. It's like, and that's just beautiful. I just find that exciting.
Julie Cruz kind of had a thing with that for a while, that like everybody know her from like her Twin Peaks and like that kind of stuff. And it's like she's like, no, I do other stuff. Like she was in the B-52s for a while.
Wow. Okay.
Which is crazy, you know.
Yeah, that's wild.
But it really comes down to expectations, right? Which would be a recurring theme with it. But I think that there's something to be said, like Kim Gordon, right? I don't know what late night show it is, but there's like a video of her playing this song and her band, and like to me, it sounds like she's fronting Dead Rider, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's a huge swing, and I'm totally here for it. Like, and I don't mean to be reductive when I say that. I just mean the way that like when I heard that Shows on Glass record, I'm like, what is happening in this? This is crazy. Like, and I didn't expect something normal from the dude from U.S. Maple, but I was like, pleasantly shocked that record, it was as crazy as it was. And so even then, like to have someone like Kim Gordon who doesn't need to do anything anymore. She's Kim Gordon. You know, she's one of the most like groundbreaking groups of all time. She could just like chill and like it wouldn't be, but she's making this like cool, weird kind of genre pushing music. Freaking good on her, man.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not what people expect, and it's great. You know, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, same with like PJ Harvey. Like the new record didn't quite connect with me, but the last two I fucking loved.
Yeah,
and
another lifetime passer for me too. Yeah,
yeah, and so like, I know people want her to go back and do the like early Power Trio stuff.
Yeah, just do Rid of Me again.
Yeah, but I'm just like, it's there. Go listen to it.
Yeah,
you know. I mean,
it's a perfect record. You just listen to it and remember.
I don't like people moving backward. Yeah, and. So yeah, and that's like with that C.L.S.M record, that was kind of our concept with that, is with like, I love hardcore, I want to make hardcore, but I don't want someone to think that this is where Coliseum led. This is an offshoot of Coliseum. This is what's in our DNA. Right, exactly. This is a little turn off, and it's part of what we do. We'll play some of those songs at these shows. It's part of our discography, but this is not the new statement we're trying to make after our whole trajectory as a band. Right. And I think that's fun. You know, it's like I did like some solo instrumental stuff. I put out a record a couple years ago, and that's cool. That's not the only statement I want to make with my life. It's it's music.
It's not the only thing you could do, and you can do more than just the one thing. Yeah, right. And I'm always kind of flabbergasted by that when people don't, it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, and then like I always tried to like not hear the insult in that. I'm like, well, I'm surprising. I don't know.
Right.
And I was like, what do they think I do?
Right.
what and then again, I'm trying not to hear the insult in it. But
yeah, I think it's true for everybody. I mean, I know it's true for novelists, and obviously it's true for directors, and I think expectation. It's like I really love Sexy Beast and Under the Skin, and I was extremely excited for Jonathan Glazer to make Zone of Interest, his fourth movie.
Yeah.
And what I went into expecting to see, I expected to see like Sallow or The Conformist or some kind of like anti-fascist film that was going to like hit a hammer over my head. And I was like, okay, this banality of evil movie is banal. And
it succeeds at being banal. No, I was not a fan. I like Glazer a lot, but I was the one. I'm like, what? That's it?
Right. Same. I was like, okay. And I appreciate the idea, and I appreciate the craft and all that stuff.
I appreciate that no one will say anything negative about it too.
Well, true.
Which is like, come on. Like,
yeah.
We saw the
Yeah.
same movie, right?
Right. Eh, eh, but
he made the movie that he wanted to make.
Yes.
And good for him. And like again, doesn't Under the Skin's still awesome. Like Six
Right.
Piece is still awesome. I love those movies. And he as much as it wasn't really for me, he did the exact thing they wanted to do.
Yes.
And the sound design of that, incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like there's lots of things I love about it. I just didn't love it as a fully
Right.
articulated thing, personally.
Agreed. That's how I felt too. But I also, my expectations, I felt that every time the Coen brothers had a new movie out. I mean, I remember seeing.
I mean, you mentioned The Conformist. That would have been amazing if he would have done like a modern,
yeah.
like his version of
Yeah.
The Conformist. But like, that was not what he was doing.
No. But like when the Coen brothers were actively making movies, every time I would go in with such expectations, and they would always subvert them. I mean, I did not, when I saw No Country for Old Men in the theater, or Big Lebowski, or so many of them, I would just be like, wait, what?
Big Lebowski was the big one because that was, people wanted like the next Fargo.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And they were like, what the heck? What is this? Is this like a detective movie? Like what is happening here? And then like later on, of course, like people are like, oh, this is great, is what it is.
Yeah. And I think that type of thing is cool. And I think that's good. And I think walking into something that maybe I don't like at first is good, because I think it will challenge me, because I want to be challenged, and I want to be fucked up by something that is incendiary and ground shaking a bit. And that's part of what I want to do as an artist, while also just ultimately writing enjoyable songs.
Write the things that you want to do. Sure.
Yeah. It's like, I want to write songs that stick in your ear and that are meaningful and sincere and earnest, but, and have a level of craft. And so, yeah, I like all that. I like shaking it up, and that's cool to me. It's like, there are very few points in my history that I can say that I didn't do exactly what I wanted to do and that aren't 100% sincere. And those moments when like I was saying earlier, like when I succumb to an internal pressure to do something that because I felt like I wasn't, like what I wanted to do wasn't good enough or whatever. Those are the times when I look back and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about that record, or that song or whatever that I've made.
Yeah.
And it's the times when I was just totally true to myself and only made what I wanted to do that I'm the happiest with. And ultimately that's what matters, because like for obscure cult artists, you're not buying a house with a new record. You're not keeping your island in Italy like afloat, whatever. You're just making music, and it's that you live with, and that's what matters.
You have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to be true to whatever your muse is.
Exactly.
As it is at that time. No, so how does that when and I know Fotocrime does a good amount of playing out. How does that work as far as honoring the catalog for that band, but like where you're at currently for the live set? Like what songs do you choose to play?
Yeah, it's a mixture. I think Fotocrime is kind of like Coliseum was, where it doesn't feel like there's a hit we have to play. It's like there's like one song from our first record that seems to be the one that got the most traction. Sometimes we play it and you can tell, oh, okay, people are getting it and people know this song. But for the most part, we do what we want to do. And I think we generally skew toward the songs that make sense, that are more guitar based. There might be a few that I don't play guitar and I just play synth and all that. But that picking of the set, it's generally what makes sense for the three of us to play at that time. It's pretty easy, and I like the idea. I always find it frustrating in the moment, but those songs that you don't know if they'll translate live or.
Oh yeah. Can we land this? Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. And I really
let's find
like
out together,
that.
everybody.
I like when you try that and you're like, oh, it didn't work, or oh, it did. Yeah.
Well, and that can go both ways, right? They could be like, oh, this one's a certified banger. This is gonna rock, and then you play it and people are like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff where it's like, this one, fine. And then people are like, whoa, that song's amazing. And you're like,
of course.
For real? That one?
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
I mean, it's okay.
Sure, if you say so.
All right.
And there's songs that like with Fotocrime, there's some songs that Nick just loves. One of my favorite songs. Right. The other guys are just like, nah, I don't like playing that one. And I'm like, I have no idea why.
This is something they don't care about. On it,
but I'm not gonna like, try to pull it out of their brains. I'm just like, cool, you don't like it, we won't play it,
Yeah.
But
Well, that's the nice thing about having a deep catalog is that like you don't. Yeah. It's
yeah,
not like when a band starts out. Well, we only have 5 songs. What order do you want to play them in?
for sure. And I love like there's a song on Accelerated called Pulsar 99, and it's it's a very krautrocky kind of like second Wire album kind of. It's very very stripped down.
Yeah.
And when we play it live, it becomes a lot more of just like a straight ed rock.
What's that mean?
And if I kind of casually hear it, seeing how different it is on the record, that's really exciting when the live version has become so different.
It's evolved. It's
yeah,
changed.
Exactly. Yeah, or it's just a different experience. The recording is one version and the live is a different version. And I think that becomes really, really exciting and fun as a musician.
Well, and that's making the process of playing live part of the process of the music too, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that happens with most bands, whether they're intending that to happen or not. But when there's something kind of transforms that way, it's like, oh, you can. Oh, well, look, you mentioned "Push the Sky Away," right? Like the, was it Jubilee Street? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like I was like, yeah, that song's pretty good. And when I saw him on that tour and I saw him do it live, I'm like, oh wow, that cooks.
Right.
That's a really good tune. Like, and I didn't even realize. And I went back and listened to it. I'm like, yeah, it's okay on the record.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But that's the nice thing about live versus recorded is that they don't have to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And they maybe to some degree shouldn't. I mean, it's almost kind of boring if you see a band. It's like, oh, it sounds exactly like the record.
For sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of beauty in that, and I mean, and certain bands maybe even take that too far. I mean, there are some bands where I'm like, I don't know, this like jam in the middle didn't need to be 15 minutes long, or whatever. So
don't get me started on people jamming in the middle of the songs.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think when I was a kid, I mean, I loved Fugazi, but then like as time went on, I was just like, this kind of live, like Fugazi feedback thing between every song is like, let's just fucking get to the song, like I kind of turned on that as I revisit as I get older. I'm like, all right, it's fine. It's cool. I know they were trying to buck convention and they were kind of fucking with the hardcore mindset, but also in hindsight, I don't really love the jammy Fugazi moments.
Some of the double drum stuff is like cool, but it's like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, like the when the records get to these like weird, kind of interludes, I'm like, okay, skip on to the next fucking song. It's like that. So, but I appreciate it in the time.
That's it. One of my favorite bands of all time, like Peace and Love. Don't get me wrong, but I get it. Like, but it's also, think about where you're at now versus where you were at then, and where music was at then versus where it's at now, and things are going to be artifacts of their time, and like
Absolutely.
you said, they were bucking convention just by things as simple as like, oh yeah, no set list, we just are just going, and I have actual nightmares about that, by the way. I'm like, no, I do not want. Thank you. No, I'm good. I am good on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But for them, it was like that was kind of like the whole. As much as it's people can be mad at me for mentioning it, it's like what people that love the Grateful Dead get out of like Grateful Dead is just like, oh, you don't know what's gonna happen next, but they're playing this, and that means they're gonna launch into whatever.
Right. And that's exciting. And I appreciate that in a lot of things. But at the same time, sometimes I just like, I'm generally like a fan of concise music, like that's generally my preferred.
I'm going to assume your time is valuable. I know mine is. Let's
exactly.
Let's treat it accordingly.
Yeah.
Well, Wire's a great example, right? I mean, like God, especially the first 2 records of just like economy in motion of just like, oh man, there's like no gristle on these bones at all,
Right. Like I'd rather see, and I've seen Wire do that thing where they just like bash out all their songs, and I've seen them kind of a good bit into after they came back.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, I don't know what I'm seeing, but
it's getting ponderous.
They're rubbing their fingers on iPads, and like it's And that's fine too. It's cool. It's still cool to see them do that. But
Yeah.
to me, it's like sometimes if you're fucking off for 10 minutes between a song, I'm like, I could have heard 3 songs in that time. You know, it's like
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I want to hear the magic you make versus the just off the cuff randomness. Personally, that's just my personal taste.
And it is, I mean, that kind of aesthetic is absolutely a matter of personal taste.
Yeah.
And there's some bands that would be caught dead doing it, and some bands, that's their whole vibe.
Yeah. I mean, Coliseum, we've been revisiting like some live videos and stuff to just,
Yeah.
like, you know, drummer Carter would be like, oh, I was trying to figure out this fill or something. And he's like, oh, here's this video of us playing in Australia. And we've got like a long jam session in the middle of this one song. And I'm like, I have no recollection of that. And it was fun at the time. You know, we were
Sure, because you're in the moment. You're in the moment. You're feeling it. You're playing music. You're in the vibe.
We played our song Blind in One Eye 1 billion times, and we wanted to do something different with it. But of course, interesting. Yeah. But with these this new show, I'm just like, okay, we're just hammering it through. Like this is a test of our stamina and our power. We're not trying to ease it out. We're trying to really hammer it in here. You know, and I like that. I'm generally kind of a hammer to the nail kind of guy.
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, that's an aesthetic as well, right? I mean, and that's like, look, no one would want to hear like the Ramones jamming, you know?
No, they
it's not their jam. Can you imagine?
That's a concept I would love to see.
Man, can you imagine?
It would just be like one note for a really long time. Like,
yeah.
All right.
It's the solo for I Want to Be Sedated, but a whole song. Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Okay.
No, yeah. I want to see them just bash the fuck out.
You want to hear like 40
song.
songs in 20 minutes is what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And you want it to be like, what do they want? You know, because that's the thing. And again, you want to see them do the thing. Do the thing. Do the thing we want you to do.
That's my
not anymore. They're all dead, or most.
Well, of course.
But anyway, when they were around,
Yes, and that's my DNA. Like the Ramones, and of course, like first wave punk is kind of like my ground zero of music.
Yeah.
And the things that they were influenced by before, like, it's like I want to hear blasting off. You know, it's cool. So that's kind of generally what I try to do at a live setting. You know, is just really hammer it home. You know, it's very fun for me. Yeah.
How do you feel about physical format media for the music? There's some questions about the new Coliseum album and all that you know, many people are asking that if that's a thing that's.
Oh, are people actively asking comments?
Yeah.
Asking them? Okay, cool. Nice.
One person is. It's not many.
Okay.
It sounds cooler if you say many people are.
Yeah. Well, in terms of just
thousands of them, really.
Yeah, that's fine. Send them all in. So
tens of millions.
In terms of like, what do I feel about different physical formats, physical versus digital, that kind of thing?
Well, keeping. So keeping records in print, keeping records around, but then also like when you're talking about the newer stuff, like the fact that you're going to you have a song that you're going to record, you're going to mix, and you're going to release within the space of 4 days, whatever it happens to be. And is the idea for anything with Coliseum as it stands now that like, all right, what's out there is out there, and that's what's going to be. You know, people that are archivalist. Like I'm thinking of things like you did that split with Superchunk.
Yeah. You
know, like just the esoteria and stuff like that, and things along those lines.
I think some things are of the moment, right? Like I think if we were repressing the fucking Misfits covers split 7-inch with Superchunk till the end of time, that kind of becomes a little distasteful and a little wasteful. I think it depends on the activity of the band. It's like I don't like streaming. I don't listen to any streaming services personally. I don't have a Spotify, thing. I don't listen to Spotify. I put MP3s on my fucking phone. I
do the same.
I don't want an algorithm. I don't want any of that bullshit.
I don't want a tailored experience. I just want to listen to music.
Right. And I don't want to be a part of something that is just like a purely heartless capitalist venture. It's like, I'm already part of that when I fucking gas up my car. I don't want my art to be part of that. Right. So But on that side, I do understand the reality of it. And I think, like, for example, the C.L.S.M record, we put it out, we sold out of the pressing, and now it exists on Bandcamp and Spotify. And so it's there. You can find it if you want it. It's there.
You can listen to it.
Yeah. If the time comes and there was a strong demand for it, I think we're going to maybe reissue some other old Coliseum records that are out of print here and there in limited quantities. And I appreciate that. I just don't want waste. I got a lot of records that didn't sell out, and I still have copies, and the label still has copies, and I fucking hate that. So I think making things in the amount that there's a demand for them,
right,
and beyond that, it's like I don't think there's much of a need. It's like this new Coliseum song we'll put out next week. Yeah, maybe one day it ends up on vinyl as part of something else. Maybe there's a new album or an EP or something like that.
Yeah.
But for now, it's going to be within our grasp. It's going to be on Bandcamp. It's not going to be on DSPs. It's going to be right there where you can get it essentially from us, and most of the money goes to us. And I like that. Like I just don't want to create more trash. It's like what I mean?
I get it, but it's funny
like,
well,
it's like CDs were mostly garbage bin things, and most of them got thrown away. And almost every record I've ever made, the CDs are still fucking in print because they made however many thousands of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know who still has them. I don't have any CDs anymore personally. And I know some people want that, and I want to make them. I mean, I wish that every single person who wanted a CD would send me an email, and then I could make that many.
We still sell
it.
them. I have no idea why, but we still sell them, so we keep them around. But like, I still don't understand why we do.
And if people want that, that's viable, and that's fine, and I have no problem with that as a format.
But if people got to be buying them to keep them around, right? Yeah.
But of course, I love the art of records. I love the physical touch. I love the sound. I love the layout. I'm a graphic designer. I am a record collector in terms of buying records that I want to have. I don't care about collectability, but so that is very important to me. And it was like with Fotocrime, it was part of our contract with the label we're on, that some bands, they don't release, some of their bands are just streaming bands. They mainly have a lot of streams, and they might put out a CD, but I want an LP to come out, even if it's only one pressing. I want that because I want the people that really want it the most to have it in their hands.
And it exists as a tactile object as opposed to some ephemera on a walled garden where everyone's sharecropping in the internet.
Right. Yeah. And
not to show my hand to how I feel about it, but yeah.
So, I'm a proponent of physical media, and I do kind of, like we talked about it earlier, the CDR days. I do appreciate that there was a time when we could just make some CDRs and have them at the show, and you could have a really immediate product.
There's 50 of these, and when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, and we just made this, and it's there, and you can have it almost immediately. I hate that 7 inches cost so much fucking money to print, to press, and that they, so it's a point when you're charging almost as much as a fucking LP for a 2 or 4 song record, because I think a 7-inch EP is possibly the most perfect thing on earth.
It's just people don't buy them.
Yeah, and they're expensive, and it's an ordeal. So,
I mean, the level of effort is like almost the same amount of level of effort for making a whole record, and then they're for the people that they're for,
right?
And that's lovely, but you're not going to be able to keep that sustainable if that's your format of choice,
right? Yeah, and so I appreciate, like I said, Bandcamp being like this. I'd never thought of it before today, but being like the CDR of our of music now. I like that. I like that you can put something up there. There's no, other than whatever, server shit that they're dealing with, like whatever that costs or is environmentally affecting. But essentially, it's like if I wanted to do a live EP, I could do that. And
you
put
could just
it out
do
there.
It just like bop, 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 bop. There you go, everyone. There it is.
Yeah, and I like that, and I like that if people want it, they want it. Fotocrime did a covers EP in 2022, and it was fun, and it's fun to see every once in a while. For some reason, it just kind of pops up and you see a lot more sales of it for some reason. And I'm like, oh, cool. Somehow somebody discovered that and they're getting it here.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to. I don't know if our Leonard Cohen cover needs to be pressed to vinyl. You know what I mean? It's it
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that every idea has to be out there. And I've been dealing with that with Coliseum a little bit too, where we're kind of getting into a little bit of talk about reissues or remasters or whatever. And then I think, there's a lot of material we did, a lot of radio shows and shit like that. And most of it can just be forgotten to time. It doesn't need to be
interesting,
endlessly repressed. I think if it's worthwhile or if it's very interesting from like an archaeological perspective, but like, you know what I mean? Like our Day Trotter session and our KEXP and our fucking WFMU, that was all beautiful in the moment and you could listen to it in the moment or a few days later.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be pressed on fucking vinyl 20 years later. I don't personally need that for me.
Well, yeah, because it used to be that those kinds of like live sessions, things like that, were ephemera. They were, you
right.
enjoy it in the moment, and like maybe some beautiful obsessos would like tape it or something, and then like it's around for later. Now it's like, no, it's just all there for forever.
Yeah.
And like, okay, like I got strong thoughts about that personally. But then by the same token, like at my hypocrites, I'm like, oh, look at this Gang of Four footage from, 81.
Well,
holy shit,
sure.
This is awesome,
But, I'm not Gang of Four either. It's like, it's like if I had a John Peel session, I would be fucking pressing that for the rest of the time.
Hell yeah.
And we just had this discussion yesterday because we were talking about recording the Coliseum shows.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Will, who plays bass for Fotocrime, who's also a recording engineer, and talking about the logistics of it. And then we just really sat down and thought, I buy live records sometimes.
Sure.
But I essentially buy them for the photos and for one or two listens and for the liner notes. I don't buy them because I love them. It's like, I love Bad Brains, Youth Are Getting Restless. I mean, there's probably 5 live albums I fucking love.
Yeah. I love Who Live at Leeds, but that's like, that's almost like a record just on its own.
Right.
For its own reasons.
And if Coliseum next week was playing a bunch of new songs and that was a neat version of it. I mean, the Shipping News last album is a live album.
Sure.
And it's perfect. Yeah. But it's over half new songs.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. So we decided to ultimately scrap it because we were just like, I almost didn't even want to be tempted to put out Coliseum Greatest Hits Live. I was just like, I don't think we're the band that people are clamoring for that. I'd rather just put that energy into studio albums we put a lot of work into, or new music or whatever.
Right. Well, and like what you're talking about earlier too is like the difference between doing something that's like a catalog item, it's almost like a museum piece amongst the art, versus like an ephemera. Like no, this is something rad that we're doing. It's around for this time. When they're gone, they're gone.
Yes.
And like we don't need to think about it anymore.
Right. Yeah. And like I do feel like probably at some point there's going to be a point when vinyl can be made on demand. I feel like we're, like those things.
I feel like you're right. I feel like it's getting there.
And I know there are offers that do that. People that charge $100 for 10 records or whatever, but or $100.
We know we're going to sell 150 records. Let's only make 150 and not 500.
And that's exciting to me. I mean, I love the art process of that. If I could do 100 Coliseum live LPs and we screen printed the covers and had a fucking zine inside, that's exciting to me. But when it has to fucking ship from the Czech Republic and there has to be 500 of them to have, I just like, I don't give a fuck. Like
a joint allied operation just to get a record out. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a pain in the ass.
Exactly. Like that's just too much, and that's better for stuff that is, that's better for new music. And,
for staying with it.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I before you mentioned tactile items, it occurred to me. I'm not big on like, hey, let's talk about your day job. I think the Shirtkiller stuff's really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, because I think you have one of the more interesting kind of this is what I do to support the other thing kind of vibes. And
for sure.
It's cool that it's like sustainable and it's a neat thing. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I own and operate Shirtkiller.com, which is the official online store for hundreds of bands. I mean, for Slint, Thou, The Body, Weed Eater, Young Widows, Dag Nasty, Mono, Elder. I I mean, just a huge group of bands, and I've been doing that for about 20 years, and it's really great. It does really well. It's very successful, and I have this really amazing roster of 99.9% of people that I know. They're almost all people that I have friendships with. There's maybe 5 or 6 bands that I don't really know on the roster, but everybody else are people that I've played shows with or toured with or I'm a fan of. So it's awesome. Yeah. And it's just kind of an extension of my community and art. And so the active bands are bands that I really believe in and think are great people. You know, like Elder's just doing super fucking good. They did a tour with Tool earlier this year, and they're doing amazing. Like Thou is I've known Brian forever, and he does great, and they sell a ton of stuff, and so it's awesome to actually pay bands. You know, in the band world, you're like always recouping, or labels aren't paying royalties or whatever.
Right.
You know, I pay the bands, you know, a solid like Discord model of royalties, and they get paid every month. And speaking of Discord, in recent years, I've just really expanded into a lot of DC bands because of my friendship with Jay Robbins and like Jason Farrell from Blue Tip and Swizz, and actually from Brian Lowett, who kind of runs Discord day to day. All these people that I know, and my community of that kept growing, where it was like, I'm the online store for like Red Hair, and then I'm the online store for Jawbox.
Sure,
and then I reached out to Dag Nasty and just said, hey, you don't really have an online store. And Brian said, you're right, let's do it. And so I took over all their merch, and now I'm doing Scream and Velocity Girl and Government Issue and Faith and Ignition. And it just shudder to think it's just this huge, amazing roster of all these bands that I grew up loving. So it's like you're playing with toys. It's like, you know, it's like yesterday Scream had Jeff Nelson scan some original elements from their first record and email them to me. So you're getting these art elements. Yeah, I just get to work with it. It's like, it's fun. It's like play, and it's great. It's just really, really awesome. And so, yeah, that helps. That's part of my whole process. Forever I've done that. I do a lot of graphic design, where I design records and shirts for tons of bands. And I do Cat Magic Punks, which is kind of an offshoot of Shirtkiller, and my band shirts, and that's really successful. And so it's amazing. It's this really beautiful, symbiotic, artistic life I live, so that I'm very lucky that I don't have to freak out about the bottom line of any one thing, and I'm able to do
what you want to do. Not a great time for latency, unfortunately. Okay,
I lost you for a second there. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I'm good on my end. No, that's awesome. It reminds me of just being like when you're on tour and you go to like the cool vintage store.
Yeah.
And then like, oh man, check it out. There's a They Live shirt, and like, oh,
right.
You know, there's like, look at this Wire shirt I got or whatever. You know, like
for sure.
And it's got that vibe of it being. You know, just like you can find cool stuff just by going to the sites, like the online version of that.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that's exciting to me is that I'm doing stuff where bands are getting paid, and we're getting shirts out of the hands of bootleggers. I mean, Slint was bootlegged for 30 years before they had their own official shirts that I brought to the world. And
Rick Froberg, man, his stuff was like, like 24/7, 365.
Totally.
Messed up. You know?
So there's. Yeah, and I got to work. I mean, I worked with Rick on a couple of other things, but like, I did Obit's shirts there, and so yeah, that's super cool, man. I'm actually I'm very, very anti bootleg culture. I'm anti like bootleg shirts, and I find that like,
well, especially now, man. How else can you keep things sustainable as an artist? Like Jesus Christ, everything else has been taken away.
Well, I think about like you mentioned Greg Norton earlier. I see all these Husker Du bootlegs. I see like people my age wearing Husker Du shirts. And I'm like, that didn't come from Husker Du. Like,
no chance.
Like, we all know that Grant Hart died, you know, maybe penniless, and you know, those guys struggle. Like, you're not paying like fucking these people's medical bills when you're buying bootlegs from some fucking jackass who just anybody can make a shirt of a popular band or record or movie and not pay the people that created it. And it's just self-sustaining, a nostalgic trend of just sucking punk and counterculture into a black hole. So what I do is I put the fucking time in, and sometimes I deal with a lot of work. Sometimes I deal with interesting personalities. Sometimes I make sure, like, I try to offer things even if they aren't going to sell well, because I know me and other people will want them.
It's important for the people it's important for.
Yes. Even if that band sells fucking 5 shirts in a year,
yeah,
that money should go to them. It shouldn't go to somebody who's just capitalizing. I just don't understand that mentality in punk and counterculture. It's in the internet. Instagram has made it even worse, where it's just all these fucking accounts where people just go crazy over these bootleg shirts, and I do not get it. But I'm glad to be a party to even if you're making an old shirt, you're generating new money and new things for the artists that made these things. So it's even keeping their old art alive in an active way, which I think is powerful.
Yeah, and it's doing it again in such a way that's actually benefiting the artist. What a wild idea.
Right.
What a crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you like Slint, well, the 4 members of Slint and I are in an active email thread that's going on almost every week about ideas. And so, yeah, you might not get a new record, you might not get another show, but when they put out some new thing, and it might even, like the fucking Slint towel, they've all laughed about it. They've been excited about it. It's been fun.
About that, yeah.
And that's something new that's coming from that idea, that group of people.
Sure,
and it's part of that active ongoing conversation. It's not some fucking dickhead just taking Slint's photo and putting it on a shirt,
profiting off them. Well, I mean, I still remember the first band I saw that had like a shopping bag. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh my god, because I use a reusable bag all the time. Like, I'll use great. That's like way more useful to me than a record.
Right. For sure.
Like I was, and like, again, well, maybe that's the difference between show going when you're 20 versus in your 40s, but
right,
but that's a different conversation entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan's been awesome, man. So accelerated photocrime.bandcamp.com, right? Is that the best place for folks to get the accelerated? Great record, really cool.
Thank you.
Still pretty fresh. Get it in vinyl, CD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can stream it if that's your vibe. Sure.
Yeah.
And then we have again, if you got tickets for it, I guess you can go to it. But the Coliseum show's coming up. Not necessarily the all that there is, but don't expect the world tour anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Anything else that we didn't touch on?
That's about it. Coliseum, Fotocrime. I do a band called Aeon Brasi that's kind of a proto-punk band.
Oh, cool.
Just mainly plays around Louisville. That band's worth checking out. It's on all the streaming places. It's called Aeon Brasi, AON BRASI. I do lots of graphic design. I've just worked on a couple of really cool reissues for an old Louisville band that's going to come out later this year and next year. I was kind of the creative director for that. So that will be exciting to people that love old Louisville music. And I don't know, I kind of do it all. Yeah, I kind of try to keep it all updated on like my social media shit. But
game, respect, game, man.
It's like you. Yeah. It's a really beautiful life full of art. And I think any aspect of it of mine that you follow, I appreciate it. And it's very meaningful to me. Yeah, and I appreciate this talk. It was super fun.
No, I'm glad we got to do it. Again, it only took 5 years for me to get around to having you on, and like 4 reschedules. But whatever, we got it. We got it before the deadline. Deadline, whatever. Ryan, last thing, only question that I ever ask folks on this show. So you can choose to interpret it however you like. But why do you do what you do?
It makes me feel good. Yeah, it just it fills me with joy. It fills me with some of those things that maybe like a more narcissistic or more egocentric person maybe has naturally or has convinced themselves that they have, but creating things just makes me feel good. Gives me a beautiful sense of worth and value and a sense of sharing and community. And yeah, it just makes me feel really good to do it. So
Wonderful. Thanks so much, man. It's great having you on.
Thanks, dude.
Take care, brother.
Take care. Bye.
There he goes. Ryan Patterson, Fotocrime, Coliseum. What a cool guy. Let's play us out with a Coliseum song and then a Fotocrime song, so we can inside you are two wolves. Inside you are two Coliseums. Whatever. I'm gonna work on this too. Yeah. Let's do a. Oh yeah. Let's do Fate of Men.
What could I possibly say? What could I possibly do? Pulsar 99. It's your life, not mine. Pulsar 99. Celestial haze, you're on the back of the star, out past the Milky Way. What could I possibly do that could make you stay? What could I possibly do that could make you stay? Make you stay. Make you stay. Make you stay. Pulsar 99. It's your life, not mine. Pulsar 99. 99. Pulsar 99. It's your life, not mine. Pulsar 99. 99. Pulsar 99. It's your life, not mine. Pulsar 99.
There you go. That's a little Fotocrime for you. Some Pulsar 99. For that, we had Coliseum. That was the Phantom Man off the No Salvation record. Hope you guys enjoyed that talk with Mr. Ryan Patterson. Cool guy. Took me a long time to get him on this show. I don't know why. But we got there. That's what counts in the end. We got there. Name of the show, of course, is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. This show airs usually Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later, everywhere, all around the world. Get it wherever you find your podcasts. Always free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. If you do like the show and you want to help support it and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal achieves that goal. And it's just a darn nice thing to do, really. Thanks for everyone sharing the episodes around, liking, subscribing on your platform of choice, sharing it, leaving a review, all that stuff. Helps people find the show. It's deeply appreciated. So thank you for everyone that's doing that.
Signing off. Mr. and
Lots of cool stuff coming up. Let's see, Rick Sims of the Digits, Roger Clark of Missioner Burma.
anyone within the sound of my voice.
It'll be an action-packed couple weeks in this final run to the 10-year anniversary show. So looking forward to all that. Stick with it, everybody. Follow us on social media. It's more or less on all the things, much to my total chagrin sometimes.
2,000 watts of power.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening too. It's appreciated. Don't ever take that for granted.
I want to ionize the air.
Love hearing from folks, and yeah, it's a lovely give and take, really.
This
Back before you know it.
turns sound into electricity.
Talk soon.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128.
Check you
dark
later.
and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey! This is a real goddamn emergency!